fuel tank does look pretty darn clean down in there. I'm trying to not risk dropping my phone into it, but that little brownish looking patch right there is right where the filter bag sits. Otherwise, pretty darn clean all throughout. So that is encouraging. Okay, so here we are. General condition of all the wires are nice and intact. Plugs and so forth. All right, so here's all the parts that I ordered, okay? This here is the pump. I think it's 500 some odd dollars, okay? For the original pump, there's your part number. Right there. But, you know, this truck ran for 24, 25 years on the original, and I don't expect to be needing to run it another 25. So if it at least lasts that long, 275 miles, I think I have on it now. So it's like buy once, cry once, right? Okay, now these are all the rest of the parts that I would order if I was gonna do this, if you were gonna do this, with the exception of this piece here, because this is just the rubber cushion. I didn't need to order that. This one's gonna be just fine. Okay, you got your filter bag, part number. You got this teeny ass little clip right there that does need to hold the filter bag pump on. Then you've got clamps, which are the handy dandy clamps with the little snap offs. Maybe don't need to use those or order those, you could reuse those. And you could just reuse some fuel lines. So kind of silly, I spent a bunch of money on shit that I really didn't need. All you need is the filter, the clip, and the pump. Now one thing, there is one other video on the YouTube here where a fella down in Australia in a 105 Land Cruiser, 100 series Land Cruiser, he installed a Bosch pump and he had to change out the wiring. The Bosch pump, I believe that's the one it was, comes with a different inlet plug jack, okay? So, and it also comes with a pigtail that you have to solder on or crimp on or whatever you want to do. So that is one major upside of going with this expensive unit, is the clip is as factory as designed, okay? And it's just kind of hard to believe that, you know, that steering rack and pinion that I put in this truck was $600, something like that. And that's a pretty substantial piece of mechanical engineering, whereas this teeny ass little electric motor pump, it's just astonishing that they would ask so much money for it. Not much to it. If I could have found a proper alternative pump, I probably wouldn't have hesitated to put it in, but at this point, the Denzos, they're not really available, so they're kind of discontinued. And the other ones that are available through your, you know, your knockoff parts stores are gonna be totally questionable. So it just was like, if there was a Denso one, or maybe even a Bosch one available, I might have thrown that on, but we'll just go for the Toyota one. So that's a pretty damn tight fit. I took it to the hot steaming hot water I have, tried to expand that a little bit to get it to press on by hand, and that's a no-go. So we're gingerly trying to use the vise here to squarely press it on without cracking or breaking anything. There we go. We got her seated on there, nice and flush down along the bottom. And now we'll go snap that clip on. Well, that thing was just about a bugger too. Just kind of pressed it onto with the edge of the wood bench here and then tapped it on with a little socket. Tight fits all around, people. One other thing I was gonna mention is it didn't dawn on me that I may need to replace this seal until I started pulling it apart today. So if I was gonna do this again, I would maybe consider getting one of those on hand. This one looks to be in pretty damn excellent condition. I have no doubt that it'll stay sealed. It'll probably stay sealed the rest of its life. Put a little bit of grease on it. Well, there we have it. All reconnected, reinstalled, ready to be put back in the truck. Awesome. All right, and so I always try to clean up my hardware on the wire wheel before I put them back together, and clean up the threads. A couple of these threads were actually a little tricky, so I put a little bit of PB Blaster on there, liquid wrench, whatever, penetrating oil, and it helped, but almost all of them weren't a problem to get out, but there was one or two that was a little problematic. While I'm cleaning these bolts up, talk about the symptoms of why I knew I needed to replace the fuel pump. First and foremost, I don't know 100% if this is going to fix the problem, because I could have this fuel pump installed and another problem could arise, or the original problem could still appear. However, rather than paying $600 for a fuel pump, unknowingly, whether that was a problem or not, I did some troubleshooting on all of the fuel system when the problems started rising, because I didn't want to just keep throwing money at it without doing some troubleshooting. So, the symptoms it was having was, the very first time it acted up, I was descending down a hill, middle of winter here in Utah, descending down a highway, and all of a sudden, she just died. Power was still on, she just died. I pulled off the side of the road, didn't know what the hell was going on, put it in park, started it up, and it was able to start again and get me all the way into town. Okay, great. I figure it's bad gas, it's really cold, I didn't know. So I don't really have any problems. And then a couple weeks later, I go out to dinner at a place, and I leave the truck parked outside. I come out, and it just absolutely would not start. Would not start at all. So we fiddle around with it for a while, doing all sorts of research, and pop the hood, and determine that there's no fuel pressure coming out of the fuel line right there by the filter. That one you can pop off pretty easily with just a screwdriver. A quick disconnect right there on the filter. So there's no pressure coming out of the filter. All right. What could this be? A whole bunch of things, right? So we get an Uber home from that restaurant, and it's like a $60 Uber ride, and go back down there the next day with the Tundra and the big trailer to haul it home. Sure enough, it starts right up. So we drive it onto the trailer because we didn't want to be dealing with having it die coming up the canyon, blockading traffic or anything like that. So she drives, we put her on the trailer, we bring her home, no worries. I drive it around a few more times here locally near the house, you know, within five miles or so of the house for the next month, waiting for it to happen again. And sure enough, it does start happening again. And this time, once again, it died off. I pulled over, and it was stumbling, stuttering. I was like, oh shit, okay. I was able to keep it running, we turn around, and we haul ass back home. Okay, great. So now I'm doing some more research. And of course, I have pulled out the fuses. They're in the fuse box under the hood for the ECU or EFI, I think, electronic fuel injection. And I'm checking on the connectors there, okay, because it's kind of known that these fuse boxes here on this particular type of truck are prone to start having bad contacts in the some ICs here. Bad contacts inside of the box. So I'm kind of suspicious of that, I'm kind of worried, and determined, you know, I don't think that's where the problem is. All right, so here we go. He's all suited up, attached. Got a nice ring of grease all the way around to help liven up that rubber seal a little bit. Cleaned off the rim, and she's going in. Cool. Put a little bit of anti-seize on these screws here. I don't anticipate needing to pull this thing apart again. in my lifetime, but maybe the next guy might. Tiny little dab on each one of these screws. Okay, so troubleshooting. So there's basically a handful of potential culprits to this fuel pump issue I was having. Fuel pump, obviously. The next is the fuel relay, which is right back here on the back panel. Okay, those can go out, and those things are $300–400 for this tiny little electronic box back here. I'll show you in a minute. And okay, it could be a big problem inside of the large fuse panel there, the fuse box under the hood. Chow Cares has a pretty awesome video on this problem he had going on with some electrical woes he was dealing with, and he got that all sorted out by replacing that entire box. Okay, so there's kind of a few things that could cause the fuel pump to not have pressure, to not be pushing pressure up the line to the filter. I take it downtown, we're cruising around town, because it's not acting up for like, I don't know, another month. So I'm like, God damn it, I've got to get this thing to do this again so I can duplicate the failure. And so I've got my tester, my electric tester, so I can test out that fuel relay. Because that was the main thing. I didn't want to buy a fuel relay for $350, stick that in there, and then have it be the pump. That was the one thing I just didn't want to do. So it finally screws off on us again. Coincidentally, on the day I'm trying to take it in for emissions and renewal registration, so it's there at the Jiffy Lube, and they can't get it started to bring it inside the shop. So it's like, okay. So I pull off all the panels, do all the testing on that fuel relay back there, and sure enough, when it fucked off, there was power going to the fuel relay. Okay, so it's not a fuse box problem up under the hood. There is power going to the fuel relay, and there's also power coming out of the fuel relay. Okay, and so that was what pretty much confirmed to me that the fuel pump itself is getting power. It is acting like a dying fuel pump, where it's kind of working sometimes, it's kind of not sometimes. And so here we are, fuel pump. Let's hope that this solves the problem. Okay. And as far as seals on these, both of those have not just a couple of O-rings, but they're kind of like a long boot seal inside. So I'm pretty confident those are gonna hold a nice seal for a good long time. We'll get these clips back on there. We'll put a little bit of a dielectric grease here on the electrical jack, and hopefully that's a wrap. So if you're trying to get your fuel pump system working on your 100 series cruiser, this is kind of what it may entail, and good luck to you. Leave me a comment if I can answer any questions for you in the comment section. I'll do that. So have a good day. We'll see you on the next one. Oh, here's the little fuel panel here. This is the fuel control. Okay, so when it was fucking off, I did test with my multimeter to make sure there was power going in and power coming out. I can't tell you exactly which wires are from which. You just gotta kind of trial and error until you figure it out. But hopefully that thing isn't bad also, or doesn't go bad next, right? All right, let's see if we can get this whole mess put back together.